Well, hello, folks out there. Good grief. I had to change my thumbnail because news is changing quick out there. First of all, we've hired Jim Knowles. We know that's accurate. But also, there's talk of Ward Manuel may be out. He may be out of here. So I had to change the picture, and we'll talk about this a little bit. I was not I thought I was just going to talk about Jim Knowles. But, man, stuff is changing quick around here between the deal with Sharon Moore. And now I was wondering, it's like, you've had the hockey scandal, the basketball scandal, multiple football scandals, and now the Sharon Moore scandal. And I'm going, who is the athletic director up there who has been through all of that? Ward Manuel. So it would appear that's the case. But first, we're going to talk about Jim Knowles, and we'll get back into the Ward Manuel situation. Let me pull up this one. Yeah, you can see right here, Tennessee has added Penn State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, and pretty solid hire, I consider it to be. Josh Heupel said Knowles was a top priority from the start of the process, so that's interesting. Of course, we fired Tim Banks, you know that. And Heupel said Jim has a proven track record. Definitely. He's won a national title. He's had the #1 deal. Penn State owed him $7 million, and they were working on a buyout for him. Now, here's what I know about his contract. I would assume there was mitigation in there that if he took another job, and he actually took a pay cut to come to Tennessee because we're paying him less. He was getting $3 million at Penn State. Now, he was coming off a national title at Ohio State, and they had to throw a lot of money at him to get him to leave, because if you leave Ohio State for Penn State, you're not going to ever go back to Ohio State. They're not going to forgive you for that. I know that for a fact. You don't go to the competitor and get away with it at Ohio State. So he had to be paid, and paid well. So he was on a 3-year, $9 million deal. And so I'd say he probably just cut him a deal of, pay me $3 million or $2 million or something like that, because they knew he was going to take a job. And that's what Penn State did that with James Franklin. I think they just paid him $10 million. They owed him $50. And then he went to Virginia Tech, and it would have been mitigated completely. So really, they probably should have held on and just not paid him anything. But I'd say they paid him a couple of $1 million. So yeah, he's going to start out $2 million next year, then 2.2, then 2.4. But if you got paid $2 or $3 million to leave Penn State, you're really making over $3 million, or you're probably right at $3 million. So I don't think that's a big deal one way or the other, honestly. Something on my stupid glasses. But anyway, I'm happy with this hire. I think this is a guy that's had, multiple #1 defenses in the country. Matter of fact, I'll show you that. Let's add that in here. Let's see, record. There we go. Yeah, in Ohio State, he was there for 3 years. They averaged giving up 12.9 points a game. Back to stage. Let's see. Yeah, and had the #1 defense in the country, 250 yards. That's outstanding. Of course, Ohio State's continued that this year. He was at Oklahoma State. He got them to #9 in the country in scoring defense and 4th in total defense. That was their final season. That was back when Oklahoma State was good. When he left, they went to crap. And at Duke, he was there with Cutcliffe, and they got inside the top 25 at Duke. Now, folks, if you follow Duke any, you know they're not known for defense. Even this year, where they went 8-5, their defense was terrible. So I think this is a really good, solid hire. When we go into the portal, which we'll be doing, it'll be nice to have that type of a credibility. And he's got a ton of credibility. So when he talks to these kids, because we're going to have to go heavy in the portal on defense. That's just a fact. We've got to get at least 3 defensive backs, probably a safety, maybe 2, a safety, a nickelback, all that. Probably a cornerback. We need help in the defensive secondary big time. We also need a big 300-plus pound guy in the middle, maybe 2, to stop the run, because we were not able to stop the run this year. which is rare. That's the thing we were always able to do, was stop the run. So very disappointing. Who's giving me grief here? So obsessed with good grief. Fez, here, I'm going to put this up here. This type of crap I got to listen to, people. Obsessed with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Shut up. See, that's what I got to deal with, folks. But people are allowed to have their opinion on here. As long as they're not hateful, I don't care. Doesn't hurt me. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, well, he did have fun. Nico did make him look bad. That was the one guy that made him look bad last year. And I'm sure everybody will remember that. But he also had the number one defense a couple of times in the country and won a national title and had a top 25 defense at Duke. So I don't think he's forgotten how to be a defensive coordinator. And they scored 21. He averaged giving up 21 points last year at Penn State, his first year. So that's about 9 points better than the Vols did, by the way, just so you know. And that wasn't a great year for him. So anyway, let's see, Knowles. You hadn't heard of him? Really? You had not heard Jim Knowles? Wow. Man, I can't believe that. Well, I guess if you don't stay with the Big Ten, like, he's a huge name up there. Went from Ohio State over to Penn State. That was a big deal, if you'll remember. And I don't think Ohio State minds it. They've got a great defensive coordinator. And really what it boils down to, Ohio State's got the Jimmies and Joes. And they've got that Caleb Downs back there, the human eraser. That was the best pickup ever for them. Absolutely. So no worries there. We'll get into the award manual here in a second. I'm going to go on X and take a look at that. But I'm very happy with Jim Knowles. Here's the thing. We were trying to hire the possible hire of Ryan Walters out of Washington, who is a mid-tier to upper mid-tier defensive coordinator. Here, Jim Knowles was the highest paid defensive coordinator in the country last year, folks. Number one. You don't get $3 million a year by being bad. So if you have a problem with him, I don't get it. I mean, that was absolutely the best available defensive coordinator by far. I'm sorry, there was nobody out there better that had his credentials and his history. I mean, name me somebody better that was available. Okay, don't say, oh, well, go take Ohio State's or go take Georgia or go take Kirby Smart. See, Kirby's not available. You need to understand that. We can't just go get Kirby. Doesn't work that way. Jeremy Pruitt, he's going to be available pretty soon. I think their NCAA is going to let him back in. So there's a guy you could get. That'd be fun. That would be fun. Can you imagine having Jeremy Pruitt back at defensive coordinator? He'd probably do a good job, too, is what's funny. He was a fine defensive coordinator. He's just a terrible head coach. So anyway, yeah, everybody's Lane to Bama. I tell you, I am not surprised to hear about this. Let me pull that up for y'all. Let me get rid of this and pull up X and show you what's going on with Ward Manual. See, here's the one that's really got me. This is Dave Portnoy, and I'm assuming, let me make sure this is right. I invented Barstool, owner of these 3.7 million followers. Didn't mean to do that. Hold on. And it says, so Ward Manual is out. We have no coach, no AD. KS is. Am I looking at that right, folks? Have I got the right Dave Portnoy there? I think I do. I'm pretty sure that's the correct one. It looks like it's very legitimate. Right there it is. So if he's come out and said that, I mean, that's pretty much spot on. I mean, who else would know more than he would? So I'm thinking Ward's been shown the door. Are y'all hearing anything different than what I'm hearing? Let me see. Let me get in here. Jim Knowles, Michigan looking. Okay. General Ursus says Michigan is looking for an AD. So that's interesting. So that's, like I said, that's what I'm hearing. Let me see. Let's get in here and see if there's anything fresh that I'm missing. Because, you know, sometimes people put stuff on X. Let's see. Here's Woody. Schroenmore, that was 1 hour ago. Talks about how Ward Manual, clearly a mental health component, etc. Well, and here's somebody, Destiny says Ward Manuel is out. No AD. Chaos says, okay. Well, here's Yahoo Sports 2 hours ago. It says Michigan was alerted that Sharon Moore was dealing with mental health issues, yet athletic director Manuel fired him alone with no HR representative, no security present. Well, good grief, man. You got to be careful these days, don't you? Let's see. Tim Fleming at ESPN. Let me see this. National NFL Insider, host of Tim Fleming Show, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Has fired athletic director Ward Manuel per release. Manuel received a 5-year contract extension last December. He's currently being questioned by, oh, no, that can't be right. That can't be right. Ward, my tenure has been rife, blah, blah, blah. It was 3 hours ago. Missing the point. It's been alerted prior that Sharon Moore is dealing. And everybody's reporting this. Maybe is that what they're going to use to fire him on? Is that what they're doing? Let's see. Scott Hughes has fired athletic director per. Let's see who this is. Men's college basketball reporter, independent journalist. Shouldn't have a job. That was College Football Report. Well, they're really going off on this part. Yeah. So this wouldn't have been leaked if Ward Manuel wasn't next. That was 2 hours ago. I think this just happened an hour ago, folks. That's Sharon. Yeah, here's Nicole Auerbach. I know she's as legit as it gets. NBC Sports. Folks, this is just on the fly. I'm telling you, this stuff's happening on the fly. I'm doing the best I can here, but it certainly looks like. It says, yeah, it usually takes a minute on the actual news. X always has everything first. It's usually just right out on X. And then about an hour later or so, you'll start seeing reports on ESPN. That's typically how it goes. But we'll see how it rolls. I expect him to be let go. So this doesn't surprise me. Like I said, this is not 100% yet, but it's getting there. It's getting there. So says Manuel's real tight with I'm sure he is. Well, of course he's got to be. But this is 4 or 5 scandals in a row, folks. And he's been the athletic director and made these hires. He made the basketball coach hire. He made the football coach hire. He was the guy that was going to keep Jim Harbaugh and make him the highest paid guy out there. So last I heard, it's still going on. Let's see. Bryce Underwood. Yeah, I had heard he might be in the transfer portal or heading that way. Of course, he not until January 3rd. But I think there's talk of that. If they look seriously, that's what I'm hearing, that a lot of people want him gone. That's what I'm hearing. So the fact that that's got Dave Portnoy, like I said, we're getting close to being sure, but we're not sure. So it's still alleged. I can't say it 100% until I see it on like ESPN or I see it on official report. And let me look right now because it's almost 6. So let's just see. Ward Manuel. Boy, if he survives this, he's like a cat, man. He's got 9 lives on that. Inappropriate, blah, blah, blah. That was 2 hours ago. I don't see anything within the last hour. Oh, here we go. It says on 3. This was an hour ago. It says report Michigan AD Ward Manuel status will score being discussed by Board of Regents. Okay. That was 3 hours ago. So if the Board of Regents is there talking about it, they didn't meet for nothing. It sounds like they're going to clean house. At this point, do you want Ward Manuel hiring your head coach? I asked Michigan fans that. Would you want him hiring your coach? His last couple of hires have been disastrous. Just disastrous. What other word can you use? Seriously. If he was the Tennessee AD and we'd had multiple scandals in a row. I mean, well, here's what I can tell you. When we let Jeremy Pruitt go, we went through 2 ADs before we wound up with Danny White. We went through 2 athletic directors. That was over one guy, Jeremy Pruitt. That's how upset Tennessee was, because we didn't like that scandal. We didn't like it one damn bit. As a matter of fact, it was very embarrassing, and Donde Plowman, the chancellor, she came out as soon as she found out about it and held a press conference. And I mean, she ripped the athletic department apart. And then they went in there and they fired every coach that was involved, got rid of the athletic director, then another one. And we wound up with Danny White. He went and hired Josh Heupel. And we've not had any real big problems since. You know, we'll have the occasional personnel problem with a player, like a Book Harder situation, Nico Emil, but you can't control that. That's not something you control with a player leaving over, you know, being upset. But we haven't had any scandals since then. And the athletic director is so key to that, because he's got to make the hires. And you got to make hires based on really history. You know, you've got to look at what the folks have done over the years, and have they been a head coach? Have they been a coordinator? You know, what is their history? And you need a search team to go through that. And I don't know how much Ward did of that. It might have been, well, I like this person. You know, that's one of the tricky parts. You get in and you like the person. That doesn't necessarily make the best hire. It needs to be the best hire. That's why I give Scott Strickland a lot of grief at Florida, but he wouldn't hire Lane Kiffin because he didn't like him. Now, he pretended to try to hire him. I don't think he really – I think what he did was he put a poison pill in there and said, well, this will probably keep him from taking the job, but if he does take the job, I'm in control. That's what I think Scott Strickland did. And Lane said, especially when the LSU job popped up, he was like, oh, they're going to let me do whatever I want. And Strickland was over here saying, well, I'm going to give you a GM. See, I'm going to help you. But the GM that's going to control the money, he reports to me, Scott Strickland. He doesn't report to you, Lane Kiffin. You 2 guys report to me. Understand? Comprende? And Lane went, well, this is weird. And he called it weird. And ever since then, like, it started going south with him going to Florida. And then LSU popped up, and he was like, oh, because I think he would have stayed at Ole Miss rather than go work under the thumb of Scott Strickland. I really do. I think he would have stayed at Ole Miss. I mean, I promise you this. If I'm at Ole Miss and I have total autonomy, I can do whatever I want. I can bring in the players I want. I can spend the money I want. And I'm going to go over to Florida where I've got an athletic director who doesn't like me, which that's a red flag the size of a house, okay, when the athletic director doesn't like you. But then he's going to control the purse strings and the general manager who's supposed to be working for me or with me, at the least working with me. So if they don't, then you know who's got film on the board doing something immoral. Reminds me of the movie Porky's. They don't. It's hard to say, Mike. It really is, because here's the thing. You don't know. Thank you for the $9.99, by the way. I appreciate that. It's hard to say how tight he is, you know, in there. He might be super tight with a lot of really powerful people, especially big-time donors. The Dave Portnoy thing has got me thrown, because if that's legit, and it certainly looked legit to me, like I said, I'm not saying 100%. But it looked like it to me. And he would be the first guy to know. I mean, Portnoy, for some reason, it's because he's a huge donor. And he's as tied in there with Barstool Sports and all that, if I can say the word. So when you've got Barstool and you're a huge donor and you're Mr. Michigan, you're going to know crap quick. And he certainly has. Let's see here. Michigan do is hire Brian Kelly. You know that? Brian Kelly would not be a bad hire to kind of calm everything down. I mean, it's not like he failed it. He did not fail at LSU. I mean, that's one of the things when you get fired, it's like, oh, well, he was terrible. No, he was not. He averaged like almost 10 wins a game down there. and he was 5-3 the last year, and they fired him. So, the guy I think he had almost as many wins as Heupel, but LSU that's a spoiled fan base, folks. They're used to winning big. And if they don't win, you're going to, as a matter of fact, he won the East. His first year, he won the SEC East. Now, I see that a lot. A lot of people don't like Dave Portnoy. I agree with that. But here's the thing. Whether you like him or not, he's like this at Michigan, okay? So that doesn't change that any. Let's see what this guy's saying here. Yeah, I think it's a great hire. I do. I think it's a great hire. I was listening to Buckeye Scoop last night. I told you I was going to. And, of course, they were all over the Sharon Moore thing. And Nevada Buck he said, I'm a big Jim Knowles fan. He said, I think that's a great hire if they get him. That was before we knew we'd gotten him. And I trust Buckeye Scoop when it comes to knowing things about Ohio State and the coaches and having a good understanding. And Nevada Buck's been straight on about stuff. So if he says he's a good hire, I don't know anybody no better, honestly, because he watched him for 3 years, and he's tight. He's very tight with Ohio State people. He's the guy that knew about this whole thing with Sharon. He'd been hearing it, and he talked about it days ago. So I would trust his judgment based on everything that I've watched the last year or two with the Buckeye Scoop. I would trust it. So anyway, here we go. Says Buckeye says, yes, it was killer hire. It just want to admit it. They were all, yeah. Well, I'm sure they were mad when he went to Penn State. I'd be pissed. If you left Tennessee and went to Alabama, or you went to Florida, I'd be mad at you. Now, I would give you credit if you were good. See, you don't get mad if somebody leaves if they're bad. It's like, God, get out of here. Good. I'm glad. Good for you. Oh, he's great. You'll love him. But if he's good and you've just won a natty, you would expect the Ohio State people to be ticked off. And I'm sure that I think I remember they weren't happy about it. I'm sure they weren't. Would you? Would you be happy? So, do you think Jim Knowles will open the door? Yeah, absolutely. Of course he will. Yeah, he's already worked with those kids for a year, and Penn State's got some great players. They were ranked number one at one point this year. In 2025, they were ranked number one at one point. So it seemed like when they lost to Oregon, it was like the air came out. They thought this was going to be the year they were going to beat Oregon or beat Ohio State, and it just didn't happen. So that was so unfair firing James Franklin. They should not have done that. They wound up making a good hire, though. The Iowa State kid, he's solid. He was their 8th or 9th or 10th choice, though, is the reality. I just think they thought, hey, we're Penn State. We're going to fire James Franklin and get a better coach. And a lot of people, Penn State's a great place to be a coach, but it's not in the top 5. I'll go ahead and tell you that. It's probably on the edge of top 10. But after you fired a guy that was winning, he won 34 games in 3 years. You understand that's an 11.3 win total on average. So you're averaging over 11 wins a year, and you get fired because you lost 2 games you shouldn't have lost to Northwestern and UCLA. Lost those. I get being upset. They should not have lost those 2 games. But you're going to fire him over that after he's won 34 games in 3 years? That's insane. I don't get it. That's, again, familiarity breeds resentment. You can have a coach too long. It's very rare that a coach he was there 12 years. So most coaching gigs, 10 is it. You can go 10 years is the max you can go at a place, and people are going to get sick of you. Mark Stoops, same thing happened with him. Of course, he was losing. He had a couple losing seasons in a row here. But once you get to 10 years, they're done with you. They're just sick of looking at your face, unless you're Nick Saban. Nick was fine. He could have coached there forever because he won 6 national titles at Alabama over 17 years. That's insane. That will never be done again. Never be done again. Especially with the NIL the way it is. We have too much parity now. Nobody's going to win 6 national titles in a 17-year span. It's impossible. And he took over an Alabama team that stunk. They were in a bad spot, and he just 1 year is all it took. First year, I think he went 6-6 or something, and then the next year he was winning the conference. I mean, it was unbelievable. Crazy turnaround. And then he never looked back. And he got out at the right time. He did. He got out when this NIL started going crazy, and he realized, I can't coach in this environment. This is not going to be good for me, because he's not somebody that can compromise the way he does things and his principles. Now, he'll work around things. He'll change his offense. He'll change his defense. He'll do what he has to do to win. But what he couldn't do was just put up with the crap that you have to put up with NIL. I mean, he just couldn't do it. Not after you've done it for decades another way. You almost need young guys to handle the NIL because, first of all, it's very stressful. It's tons of hours. You're constantly dealing with 95 different personalities, all of which are strong personalities where they were the number one team on their high school, number one player in their county, possibly in their state. And they're used to being treated a certain way. And they're usually have at least 10 prima donnas out of that group at least. And you've got to deal with those personalities. And if look, I played Division I. I'm telling you, I know these things. I thought pretty highly of myself. And then I realized when I got to UT, there was multiple guys way better than me. I was like, holy crap. I played on the golf team, and there was guys knocking at 30 by me. I was a freshman, and I was like, what are you hitting from here? And I was hitting like a 7, and they were hitting a 9. And I'm going, you're hitting a 9? Yeah, hitting a 9. Right in the middle of the green. I'm sitting here smacking a 7. I was like, good grief, what's happening here? And it took me a couple of years just to get the distance right, to get my distance up where I could play at that level. Telling you, SEC, I don't care if it's football, golf, basketball, whatever the crap it is, you're going up against elite athletes, super elite athletes. My roommate played the Masters, played in the Masters. My suite mate, who was across the hall, won the Chattanooga Open, and the other one won the SEC. It was like, you guys are crazy. That's how good they were. It's like, I'm in over my head here. And I was a solid player, but I was not one of the best players on the team. They made me captain just because I think our coach figured, well, if I played with any dignitaries, I wouldn't say anything stupid, which I played with Doug Dickey in a tournament. And he said, John, you play with Doug, with Coach Dickey. I mean, he said, I don't need anybody saying anything stupid. Let's see. Buckeyes are steaming mad. Knowles ditched them. Maybe. Arch cheeks. I've seen you in the comments quite a bit. I'm sure they were mad. I would have been. You go to Alabama and we just won a national title, I'd be ticked off. I don't blame them for that at all. Let's see. Has anybody got it confirmed? Has anybody seen where it's been confirmed for sure on Ward Manual? Anybody at all? I know y'all will know more than I will because I can't even keep up with it as quickly because I'm sitting here talking to you folks. And let me check here. Let me get in here and see what's going on. Let's go to latest. I'm not even going to show the latest because somebody might put something stupid up there, and I don't want to show you all that because that's not cool. Let's see. Reset. Here's somebody that says could be they've got the big Michigan next to him, but also terrible at times. He obviously lost control of the football, etc. Okay, here we go. No, that's somebody else. Trying to look for anybody super legit here. 111 recruiting. He's been fired again. I'm not confirming that, but it certainly is. There's a ton of smoke, folks, a ton of smoke. I'm looking for flame. Here's another one everybody's saying that he's been let go, but I'm not seeing it from an ESPN or whatever. Let me see if any of y'all are seeing that at all. Anybody got confirmation? Let's see. I'm not seeing anything from you folks. Yeah, I'd love to get Hyder. Hyder'd be great pickup. That dude, that's the number one running back in the country. It was between us and Michigan, and it was close. I think they threw extra money at him there at the end because Michigan really wanted him. And running back's important to us. It's not as important it is to Michigan because, we're more of an air raid style offense and all that, whereas Michigan likes to ground and pound. That's their bag. So, yeah, definitely Vol guy. But when we need defensive backs, there's no question about it. Let's see. Is anybody got? Let's see if Buckeyes got something here. No, nothing there. The Ohio State fans usually are on top of this stuff. Is there anybody from Ohio State that knows? No, not seeing it there. Let's see if Go Big Orange knows. Let's see. It says he's not been fired as of now, but I'm seeing it should be decided by tomorrow. Interesting. So that's why I've got to be careful. That's why I kept saying I'm not 100% sure, because X will fool you. Even that Dave Portnoy, that's why I was double checking. Like, am I sure this is 100%? Because, a lot of times people will have those parody accounts. It looked real, but I'm not 100% on it. So nothing on ESPN yet. That would be official. If it came on ESPN, it'd be official as can be. Yeah, I would let him go. Bo, I'd let him go. Wouldn't you? Y'all tell me, would y'all let him go? I mean, let's talk about this for a minute. You've had 4 major scandals, and he's been the athletic director for all of them. Hockey, big scandal. Basketball, big scandal. And he hired the basketball coach. Football, the biggest scandal of my generation and that I've ever seen was that sign stealing. That was the biggest. I mean, that was right up there with SMU as far as but look, NCAA, I've told you they're toothless. Let's see, here we go. Tons of articles saying Ward should go. He was the ringmaster of their toxic circus. Deborah, let's see, as a Buckeye, I expected Knowles. Thank you for the $5. That's what I'm seeing everywhere. And I think they're going to use this thing of, since he was having mental health issues, that he didn't bring an HR person in there and they didn't bring security in there. Because it sounds like what happened was he left that meeting and went on a little bit of a rampage type situation. I mean, that's probably a little strong. Well, it's not a little strong. Guy got arrested. Well, he got detained. He got jailed. And now my understanding is they're watching him, for his own safety. And, talking about possibly being charged with assault and all that. I mean, he obviously flew off the handle when he got fired, which his whole world came crumbling down. I had heard, I'll tell you what I've heard, is that the last few weeks he's been under incredible stress, I guess because he knew your world's crumbling in on you, okay? It's coming in on you. And said he was yelling at assistant coaches and freaking out on them, and just I've seen this firsthand, folks. I've seen this type of thing firsthand, and I've seen how people react, and they usually lash out. And they're so stressed out and so filled with anger that if you look at them wrong, if you say the wrong thing to them, they got to get it out. So they just put it on you and just yell and scream at you. And you're going, who is this person? This person doesn't act like this. And next thing you know, you're in a shouting match with them going, over something stupid, something ridiculous. And then they usually come back a day or two later. So I'm sorry. I've got a lot on my mind. And it can be very stressful. So I'd say he was a powder keg, if I had to guess. I'm sure those assistant coaches were like, might want to be careful with him right now. And then all this crap happens, and oh man, what a mess. And I mean, the man's lost $30 million, a $30 million contract, been fired for cause, so he's not going to get any of his money. And on top of it, sounds like the athletic director is on the verge of getting fired, almost certainly. And I don't know how you keep him. How do you keep the athletic director given the history of the last 5-6 years? How can you possibly? There's They need to get somebody in there that's serious, that is going to really buckle down and hire somebody with these head coaching positions that are serious men of moral quality and have a history of it. Not that they tell you they are, that have a history of it. If you're going to be the Michigan man and all that we hear, it needs to happen. And you'd better, the athletic director is a super important position. It's the most important position, really. I mean, I know people get mad at Danny White, call him Danny Dollars because he's constantly up in ticket prices, stuff like that. But he's done a great job. The guy's done a great job. I mean, he's got us competitive in every sport, and we've not had any scandals. And he's made great hires. I mean, first of all, Rick Barnes has been great. Josh Heupel's been a great hire. We lost Tony Vitello, but it's not like we didn't try to keep him. He was the highest paid baseball coach in the country, and the whole city of Knoxville loved him. So, and he hired his third base coach, Danny White did, that everybody loved and has a really good background, had been with Tony for years. And Tony vouched for him. So, and all the players wanted him. So, I mean, that's a good hire. He didn't go out and try to take anybody's coach. And that's what the heck. And you may be right. Knowles, he's 60 years old. He might not stay that long. You never know. I mean, he's getting up there, but he's got, God, but you know what? 60 today is not that big a deal. That was a big deal in the 70s and 80s, but crap, you've got head coaches that are 70 and that, are doing good. Rick Barnes is our basketball coach, and he's like 71, isn't he? I can't remember how old he is. Yeah, well, Michigan Mind Mantra is officially dead. Yeah, they that's Arch Cheeks. Here's the thing. When they let that cheating thing go on for 3 years and then they didn't fire Jim Harbaugh, the way they handled all that and then fought the NCAA the whole way instead of going in there and cleaning house. I mean, the Michigan man thing it's toast. It is. Now they can rebuild it, but it's going to take time. It's going to take time for a guy like me to have respect for what they've done or what they do in the future, because they've lost my respect. That national title, I don't respect it, and I don't recognize it. I don't care. I see that as a trophy that was stolen. That's how I see it. And that's the way a lot of people see it. And I never had the first problem with Michigan. I'm not an Ohio State fan as far as, hey, I didn't grow up in Ohio State. I didn't sit there and root for them my whole life. I had just a very neutral position on Ohio State. I had a very neutral position on Michigan. But I've been rooting for Ohio State against Michigan for the last couple of years because I think that's BS what the hell they did at Michigan, stealing their signs and all that crap. That sucks. I was thrilled they beat them this year. Thrilled. I loved it. As a matter of fact, I loved it every time they lost. I don't care because they cheated, and I don't like that. I don't like when somebody blatantly cheats an entire conference, cheated my team. And that's my opinion. I think they helped South Carolina. I can't prove it, but I think they helped South Carolina and destroyed my 2022 season when we had the number one offense in the country and Hendon Hooker. So you don't get me started. I'll go off. Nobody wants that. Oh, my gosh. Makes me mad thinking about it. I need to not think about it. Think happy thoughts. Oh, man. Let's see what y'all are saying here. National title. It is. It is. How do you recognize that? How do you recognize that national title? How? They had everybody's signs for almost 3 years. Don't you think that affected recruiting? Don't you think that affected the transfer portal? Guys staying that wouldn't have stayed. I mean, there's no way to quantify the impact that had on Michigan. So it is what it is. And then Jim Harbaugh, look, he didn't come out smelling like a rose. He did get his money squared away. He went to San Diego and got some crazy $15 million a year. But he couldn't come back for his victory lap. They were going to bring him back for a victory lap. and the media went crazy on him. They were like, forget it. Jim, stay in San Diego. Yeah, so I did see this, and that's fine. I'm glad Tim Banks got himself a quality job there at Auburn. It'll probably help mitigate some of what we owe him, and I think he'll probably do a good job at safe. He had a good year here last year. In 2024, had a great year. Top 10 defense. I mean, crap. He's not a bad coach. It's just you can't regress like this. And we're getting ready to go into 9 games next year in the SEC. We can't even if we're at number 84 again or 86 again in total defense, we're toast. This schedule coming up next year is so much tougher than 2025. It's so much tougher, folks. I'm telling you that we had a very manageable schedule the last 2 years. This one coming up is not, and an extra game on top of it. I'm telling you, the SEC coaches are not happy. And you saw what Kirby Smart said. This is what the SEC coaches are going to be doing next season, I promise you.
Thank you for playing. Should we or should we not follow the advice of the galactically stupid?
Get used to that, Sankey. That's what it's going to be like. That's what it's going to be like at your SEC office. After you've been absolutely yelled and screamed at by the coaches, they're not going to be happy with you. You're going to be just like this.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's going to be like for Sankey. Sankey, I'm so disappointed in him. Tony Petitti has just run circles around him. He really has. He just, whatever Tony wants, Sankey's like, oh, sure, no problem. Should we go to 9 games, Tony? We should? Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Tony. We'll go to 9 games for you, sir. What are you doing, Sankey? You don't work for him. You work for the SEC, the teams, the coaches. You bum. God, sitting there doing whatever Tony tells him to do. He didn't even get 16 games out of the deal. Tony's the one holding up. He's holding up going to 16 games, by the way. He wants to do the 4-4-2-2-1 crap. You know what that's going to end up? It's more charity cases. It's just like the ACC would have had 2 teams placed in there. That what was it going to be? Duke at 8-5? Were they going to be the second team in the playoff? And guess who doesn't get in? Somebody that's legitimately should, like Miami wouldn't have got in. Well, no, Miami would have got in because they're ACC. So the SEC would have got creaked, which means Alabama would have been kicked out, or one of our other SEC teams would have got kicked out. And you can't do that. You cannot have all these charity cases. We've already got 2 group of 5s that are in the playoff, and Notre Dame didn't get in, Vanderbilt didn't get in, and BYU didn't get in, but James Madison got in. James Madison got in. Explain that. They played 1 Power 4 team. It was Louisville, and got their butt kicked. And Tulane played 1 Power 4, which was Ole Miss, and got beat by 35. 35. And Ole Miss ran the ball 22 times in a row at the end of the game and still scored 10 points with their backups. Okay, they tried. Look, Lane tried to take it easy on Tulane. They just couldn't stop them. They just kept pushing them over, and just running through them. And he kept putting backup, 3rd string, 4th string. I thought he was going to play quarterback for a minute. And Tulane's over there going, too big for us. We can't play these guys. Yeah, you're right. That's why you shouldn't be in the playoff. They'll watch this. They'll probably beat them this time. They'll probably win this game against Oregon. I doubt it. They'll probably get beat by 35 again. Yeah. He knows. Definitely again. Jeez. Let's see if anybody's confirmed anything in here. I'm still waiting to see. I know, big sportsman. Just take the top 16. Why do we got to have all these charity cases? I don't get it. Group of 5 and all that. Look, if the group of 5 finishes in the top 16, fine. You earned it. They're capable of doing it. We saw Cincinnati do it. We saw Boise State do it. We've seen it done. It's not a problem. If you're in the top 16, group of 5, you're in. No problem. You earned it. And really what they've got to do that is they got to go undefeated in their group of 5 games, which they should be able to do if they're worthy of being in the playoff. Happens. No big deal. Or you've got to play some Power 4 teams, which they don't want to do because they'll be overmatched. They want to sneak in, and then they can have their party. We made it in the playoff. Oh, it's so wonderful, because that's their national title, folks. James Madison has won their national. That's the one. I am happy for them as a human being. I get it. They won the national title. They got in the playoff. Tulane got in the playoff. They won the national title. But it's over for them. It's over. They're going to get punked. You know it. I know it. And the American people know it. I hope not. I hope Ty Simpson's not hurt. Says Ty Simpson might have. I hope not. I hope he's 100%. They're playing. Well, we still got several days. So we got over a week before they play. So he would have time to, I think, get better unless it's a significant injury. I didn't see him get hurt in that game. He wasn't playing very well. It looked to me like against Georgia, he looked like a deer in headlights. I didn't like that look. He made that one throw on fourth down that was, he airmailed it. And then I saw him short arm one. Not sure. I think his confidence he's getting beat up is what's happening. He's getting hit a lot, and his internal clock is going too quick. And that happens when you get hit a lot. And Georgia, I'm telling you, there's nobody can get a team up like Kirby Smart. When he wants to get a team up for a game, I'm telling you, that's the guy you want in the locker room, because he will have those guys coming out there with their hair on fire like no other coach I've ever seen. And, of course, he's kind of that way anyway. He's kind of a volatile, excitable dude anyway. So when you get him rocking and rolling, look out. So I feel like Georgia's probably going to win this one. It's either going to be Georgia, Ohio State, or Indiana. It looks to me like that's the three teams that are probably going to win. And I would lean towards Georgia because they're coming on strong here at the end. But you never know. It could easily be Ohio State or Indiana, because those two teams, they're pretty well rested. They don't have a ton of injuries. So, they're going to be pretty close to 100%, whereas Georgia's going to be a bit beat up. But we'll see. That's my three teams that I think have the best chance to win. I hadn't even looked at the bracket recently. Seems like didn't Georgia and Ohio State on the same side of the bracket? So it's not like we're going to see them in the final, I don't think. Wouldn't it be something if Indiana won the whole thing? That would be it could happen. That Kirk Cignetti, man, he's got to be coach of the year times two. I mean, what he's done there at Indiana is just fascinating. I mean, that's a team I can be happy for. It really is. I can be happy for that team. And to finally get that monkey off their back of losing 31 times in a row to Ohio State, and then to win the Big Ten championship in the process do you know how demoralizing it is to lose to a team multiple years in a row, much less 31? I mean, that is just like, that's awful. I mean, I got to be happy for them on that. That's just thrilling. I mean, they got to be on cloud nine at Indiana. They got to be just like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened. Especially in football. They've had their years in basketball where they were great, but never in football that I can ever remember where they were even talked about. So, yeah, Georgia and Indiana look very well coached. Absolutely. Ohio State just doesn't have the offense, folks. And not Ohio State. Oklahoma. Sorry, Oklahoma. Yeah, Ohio State they're going to be fine, but Oklahoma doesn't have the offense. I guess that's what I thought you were saying in there. But those are my three. I would go Georgia, Ohio State, Indiana. That's how I'd rank them right now. But any of those three can win. Any of them. You could put a piece of paper between them as far as the difference right now, as far as odds of winning. Then after that, I would probably go. See, I don't know what to do with Texas A&M. They're so talented and loaded with 5 stars, but that quarterback is so up and down. Marcel Reed, he's up and down. Now, he can look fantastic, and then he can look like crap. And you don't know which one you're going to get. So I struggle with picking Texas A&M. Oregon, can they break through? Can Oregon finally break through and win a natty? It's possible. I would put them 4th or 5th or something like that. Let's see. Alabama, I think I've got them about 9th or 10th. And, of course, the 2 group of 5, I don't even consider them. They're not even. Let's just talk about the 10 teams, because that's absurd that they're in there. Absurd. God, that's going to be such a joke. Those 2 games. I think the spread's like 3 touchdowns on both of them, and it'll probably get worse as we get closer to it. But anyway, all right. So, do we have any confirmation? I'm gonna button this up here in just a second. Do we have any confirmation on Dude? Have y'all heard anything? I know y'all been checking for me. I'm looking for anything at all. Anything at all. Let's see. I'm just not seeing it here, Lloyd. Not seeing it under latest. Let me get the absolute latest here. Like I said, I'll look at it this way. That way I'm not just throwing something up there, because, people put weird crap on X. I don't like that. It says some people are waiting. Even though that thing said Dave Portnoy, I'm just not convinced. I'm just not convinced that he's been fired. Oh, confirmation for one, that Ward Manuel has been fired or will be fired momentarily. That's what we're talking about. There was Dave Portnoy talked about how they don't have an athletic director, they don't have a coach. So that was has really got people talking. But I just don't take that as 100% until I see ESPN or Pete Thamel, Pete Nako's one of those guys. And they're all over this thing, because this is monstrous news. Anyway. Well, all right, folks. I appreciate you showing up for this. I started out, this was just going to be Jim Knowles. That's all this was going to be, of him being hired by Tennessee, and I think it's a good hire. I had no idea the Ward Manuel thing was, and it was just like popping all over X while I was getting everything prepared to talk about Jim Knowles, and I'd already set the live. So I had like 5 minutes to put it together. So that's why I got to be careful and not say confirmed, because it's on X. That does not mean it's true. It just might be true. And it seems I know this much. If it was my decision, he'd be gone. He'd be gone for the multiple reasons I've explained. I just don't see how you keep the guy. I don't. But anyway, that's just an opinion. It happens to be the correct opinion. Anyway, we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.